So again, a very warm welcome to all of you, and great to see that we have so many people joining this meeting. So what today's session is about is we're going to talk about personal brand and how you can enhance your personal brand. But before we're going to do that, I'm going to introduce ourselves, and Rosie already gave a little bit away. So my name is Meerte Rivier. I'm the operations manager of the Clifford Academy, and I'm based in the Amsterdam office. So I'm a Bachelor of Education, have worked a lot with secondary schools, have been a teacher a while as well, and I've over 10 plus years of experience in learning and development work, coaching, etc. At the moment, I'm leading the operations team. So we arrange training for all of our employees across the world. And my team is based in Delhi and in London, and myself, I'm based in Amsterdam. So Farzana, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Martha. Hi, everybody. I am Farzana. I am an academy manager at Clifford. I have about 10 plus years of experience in learning and development, primarily in design and delivery. I'm currently based in New Delhi, India, and I'd like to welcome all of you to today's session on personal brand and look forward to interacting with you through the course of the session. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, well, before I dive into introducing Clifford Chance, I just want to ask one thing of you, all of you, because I hear a lot of background noise. So can I please ask everybody that is not talking just to go on mute, and you can mute yourself. You've got a bar underneath that says where you can activate the camera. You can also mute yourself. So that would be brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's get cracking and let's introduce our firm. So Clifford Chance, Rosie already explained that we are a global law firm, and we've got 32 offices in 22 countries, so that's quite a lot. And we are based across continents. And I think one of the most important things is that we are a corporate law firm. And what that means is that we take care of anything that has to do with legal work for businesses. So that means that if you, for example, needs to get anything sorted on your personal account, we won't deal with that. We only do work with businesses on that. So our vision for the firm, and also a little bit of our brand, so I'm sort of giving you a little bit of sneak peek, is that we want to be the global law firm of choice for business for today, but also for tomorrow. Because one of the things you always need to be wary of is that you're also future looking. So when I talk about a corporate law firm, that means that we have various departments within our firm, or practices or expertise is how you would like to say that. And a practice could be, for example, something as antitrust. And antitrust, you need to think about that as in making sure that the rules of competition between businesses are followed and that's taken care of. Another practice area you could think of is something like corporate. Well, it has already something in there when we talk about a corporate law firm. And corporate law firm would be around businesses that are merging, for example. Then we need to work at contracts, and we need to ensure that that is sorted. And last but not least, a practice area you might, I think most of you will know that, because if you ever watch TV or you see those series like Suits or any other law series, you talk about litigation. And litigation is the bit where a lawyer actually shows up in court. So as you see, lots and lots of different areas to talk about. So let me move on to the next slide, because the next slide will tell us a little bit more about the objectives for today. And the objectives for today are around the personal brand, what we said. So at the moment, we are currently in a very look at me culture. We are looking at a culture, right? It's very difficult sometimes to get a job. So you need to be memorable. You need to be special, because there are many people that either have the same education or they've done something different. And your personal brand is all about showing what is special about you. So when we're going to talk this session through with you, we're going to discuss understand the importance of your personal brand. So how do people recognize you? How do people recognize your brand? And it is about defining your mark and defining your voice. The next one is start thinking about what your own key strengths are. So what are the strengths and how are they perceived by others? So you probably heard perhaps a term that is called a unique selling point. So what is special about you? What is memorable about you? And last but not least, we're going to discuss a little bit about leverage them. So how do you build your personal brand? But above all, how do you sort of leverage that in your for your own benefit? And we have this thing where you can influence perception as long as you are aware of things. And awareness is the thing that we're going to discuss next, because what has awareness to do with your personal brand? Let me go to that next slide. So we're going to talk a little bit about verbal and non-verbal communication. And I want to share a quote with you, which is this one. So first impressions never have a second chance. And this was said by Charles R. Swindoll. And it says all about how you are perceived. And I'm going to ask you a question. And perhaps Farzana can keep an eye on the chat box in case people don't speak up. Because how long do all of you think it takes for a person to form a first impression? Has anybody got any idea about that? And of course, you can unmute yourself and you can shout as well. An instant. I see Alexis saying an instant. Anybody else? 30 seconds. Shilka? Anybody else? Well, I'm going to say it actually the first, a very little time. I absolutely agree with that. Because an instant is actually pretty close. Because it's only 7 seconds. 7 seconds it takes a person to form an opinion about you. And that opinion can be based on a lot of things. But above all, it is about verbal and non-verbal communication. So when I look at that, I just want to highlight a thing. This is in 1971, Albert Megrabin, he wrote a book about the silent messages, and it is mainly about non-verbal communication. And I just want to highlight, apart from people forming an opinion about you, how much actually is formed by non-verbal communication. So think about 55% of how people perceive you is formed by your body language. So how do you enter a room? 38% is about the tone of your voice and the music in your voice. So if I'm going to tell you something about something important, I might raise my voice up a little bit, but I also need to make sure that I'm not talking all the time at a very high voice, because then people get annoyed as well. So you need to play a little bit with that. And only 7% is actually formed by what we say. So the words we're saying. So just something to keep in mind there. And that brings me to the next bit. And you heard me say this a couple of times by now, to talk about a little bit about perception. So perception has to do with the way a person experiences, observes people and situations. But perception is subjective because it is an opinion. It is not necessarily based on facts. It's based on your culture. It could be based on your upbringing. But above all, it is about what you've experienced before and what you think you recognize in the situation you're facing today or your current situation. And that could be literally anything. It could also be based a little bit on bias. And we're all biased in bits and pieces. So it's always good to be aware of that as well. So when we talk about perception, it is very, very important how others perceive you, to be aware of that. Because for the very simple reason, it has a knock-on effect on a lot of things. It has a knock-on effect on how credible people think you are. It is how people think how committed you are. But it's also about professionality and trustworthiness. And this knock-on effect has an impact on if you get a job, if you are likable, if people give you the benefit of the doubt, for example. So again, good to keep in mind there. And this awareness gives you that leverage. So when we earlier talked about when you have your unique selling point, when you know your strengths, it is about when you have the awareness of it, it will give you the opportunity to influence it. But there's always this thing, and we have this, we are all very good actors and actresses. Some of us are better than others, but it never works with perception to play a role continuously. Because if you are not authentic, then people will notice that instantly, because messages are not in sync. So key is always, whenever you try to influence how others perceive you, is to be authentic. But we do have the option to be adaptive. Because I'm just going to give you an example of that. You behave completely different, perhaps, when you're at work or when you're at school, compared to when you're with your friends. So you can always be yourself, but you might adapt the version of yourself, what you're showing at that point in time. And that is something that is very important to keep in mind whenever you come somewhere, or whenever you're applying for a job, or you want to do a certain bit, or you want to do a study, is be mindful of that. So Rosie already shared that we have shared a couple of handouts with you. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to cover all of these, so that's why we shared it in advance. But I would definitely recommend all of you just to have a look and answer these questions for yourself, because it can give you a very good idea of how you can leverage your perception in this case. But perception has also a knock-on effect on the personal brand of things. So I'm going to hand over to Fazana, who's going to talk a little bit more about personal brand.
Thank you, Martha. So now that we've understood a little bit about how perception works, I want to throw a question at you and ask you, what do you understand of the term personal brand? So you can use the chat box. You can also unmute yourself. You can, raise your hand, and, I can call your name out, and then we can go through this. But I want to understand from you, what do you understand of the term personal brand? Qualities specific to you, yes. Thank you, Georgina. Anyone else? What do others think of the term personal brand? How effectively you sell yourself to others? Yes, to an extent, absolutely. How other people view you through your personality? Yes, true. An extension of yourself using skills and others to present yourself? Yes, thank you, Alexis. All right. I think we've got quite a few responses which are all aligned. So personal brand is what people know you for. It's how you are perceived by others. It is the story that people think of when they hear your name. It is essentially a culmination of a number of things. For example, how you come across, which is, how you speak, the choice of words, your body language, your tone of voice. It's also how you dress. It's how you present your ideas. It's also about, how you deliver at work. It's all of these things combined is what makes personal brand. So now that we've sort of gone through what personal brand is, let's do a fun activity where what I will do is I will show you an image of a popular person from pop culture, and you have to tell me what comes to your mind when you think of this particular person. All right? So can we have the first person? So who is this person? You can unmute yourself again, and again you can use the chat, whatever works for you. Harry Styles, One Direction, swimmer, okay. What else? What else comes to your mind? Yes, this is Harry Styles, but what comes to your mind when you see Harry Styles, or when you think of Harry Styles other than One Direction? Dress, yes. But what about dress? If you can elaborate a little more about his dressing sense. Simon Cowell, okay. Anyone else? What comes to your mind when you think of Harry Styles, other than One Direction? Yes. Okay, yeah. Happy, okay. Friendly, yeah, okay. So yeah, come to think of it, when we think of Harry, oh, Boy Next Door, okay, Martha, okay, yeah, One Direction, yes, that's what comes to our mind. Pop star, most popular among all the four. He's got an eclectic style, like someone pointed out. He's also popularly linked to David Bowie. He's also linked to Elton John in terms of how he dresses. He's also, a lot of his music is also inspired by Fleetwood Mac. So that he's not very he's very popular on social media, but he himself doesn't really have a TikTok account, but you have all these trends that are going on. So that's how he's sort of managed his personal brand, and packaged and leveraged his style, his sensibility, his music, and those are his strengths, and he's leveraged that to build a personal brand for himself, and that's how he is so popular. Moving on, let's see the next one. All right, so we have another personality. So if you can recognize who this person is, and also what comes to your mind when you see this person? Chef, Gordon Ramsay. Insults, yes. Anger, idiot sandwich, yes. The famous meme, perfectionist, yes. Ruthless, yes. What else? Come on, I'm sure you have quite a few things to say about Gordon Ramsay and how he comes across. And how he's Hell's Kitchen, yes. Comedian to an extent, yes. Competition against his mother, and he lost, okay. He doesn't know what a smile is, yes. Branched out. All right, yeah, so quite a few things. So Gordon Ramsay is a British chef, he's a restaurateur, he's a television personality. Most of his shows have some form of hell or nightmare, one of those terms involved. He's also known for his bluntness. He's also known for his fiery temper. He's also known for his use of profanity, right? So all those things that I just mentioned and that we talked about, he's literally leveraged his strength again, which is he's a chef, but he's also used his personality, which is, he's blunt, he's a perfectionist, he has a temper, and they've all sort of come together, and he's leveraged those to sort of build his personal brand or what he's known for, right? So let's look at another example. And now that Olympics is going on, does anyone recognize this person? Marathon runner Mo Farah. That's not Usain Bolt, that's Mo Farah. Yes, that's right, Georgina. Marathon runner. Anyone else? What comes to your mind when you think of Mo Farah? Yeah. Friendly, humble, gold medalist. Yes, all those things. And Mo Farah actually is from Somalia, and he moved to England when he was 8 years old. And his personal brand is around how, yes, exactly, Martha said it. He's hardworking. He's a family man. He, in fact, won gold medals and dedicated all four of them to four of his children. So that's the brand, and that got him, the gold medals, and his personal brand got him a Nike sponsorship. He's also been knighted in, I think, 2017. So all these things sort of worked, and he leveraged his authentic self, his personality to sort of build his personal brand, enhance his personal brand, and achieve what he's achieved so far. So that's a little bit about how some of these popular people have sort of gone ahead and worked and enhanced their personal brand. Let's move on and look at how you can sort of, define your personal brand. What are some key things to keep in mind when you are looking to build your personal brand? And how do you define your personal brand? And it is by knowing what you stand for. So the first thing one needs to look at is to be authentic. And Martha said it even earlier. It is about being authentic, and there's a lot of misconception around the fact that it could be, personal brand is all about your image, but it's not really all about your image. It is about how authentic, how real, how genuine you can be, and literally showing your true self. And sometimes it could be scary because, then you're exposing your vulnerabilities, but that is equally important because that is your story about your highs and lows. So really, truly being authentic, at the same time making about what you stand for and how you're going to hold yourself to these standards that you've set yourself. Secondly, being trustworthy and earning trust by doing what you say you're going to do. And just by doing that, you can earn the trust of anyone here who you're looking to influence. Thirdly, contribute. Find out what your strengths are, find out what you want to be known for, find out what you want to become an expert at, and leverage your strengths. And just like the celebrities or the three personalities that we talked about, they've gone and leveraged their strengths, good, bad, or whatever, however they're perceived. They've leveraged that and they've contributed to something by just simply building on their strengths. Next, be committed, set a goal and try and remain committed to that goal. And lastly, communicate. You know, like Martha talked about at the beginning of the session, first impressions are important. So it is important to communicate effectively, but also, use storytelling as a method to tell your story, because behind a strong personal brand is a great story. So stories tell people who you are, what you stand for, and how you got where you are today. So, right from Obama to Oprah to Kim Kardashian, they all have their stories. So it's time that you start thinking about your own story. What is your story? And really start putting that together. And while doing that, just ensure whatever you stand for and how you operate are in sync, because it's truly important to sort of lead your brand by truly defining how you operate. And just a couple of things that I want to sort of also highlight. There are two other key important things that could be relevant to you while enhancing your personal brand. One is visibility. Visibility is how many people know you, because for your personal brand to grow, it needs to be visible. You need to have an audience. So figure out what medium works for you and make yourself visible to be able to tell your story. Find a platform that works for you and tell your story. And secondly, networking. It's, how many people you know, because that many people essentially are your testimonials and they're talking about your character. So that will help you go the next, that will help you go to the next level. So visibility and networking, no matter which fear or what career line that you pick, these two things will remain equally important. So do keep these in mind when you're thinking of enhancing or building your personal brand. With that, I think we have a fun activity. So over to you, Martha.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Farzana. So I think you actually gave a very nice bridge to this activity, because you talked about a network and you talked about how important it is that you become visible for those that can make a difference in your life or in your career. So I just want to introduce something that is called the elevator pitch to all of you. And before we get into the activity, let me just explain what the elevator pitch actually is. So as the explanation says on the slide, it is a brief, persuasive speech that you use to spark interest in what you as an individual have on offer. So we talked about your unique selling point, about how you're being perceived, about the fact that it is important to be in sync, how it is important to be authentic. That all comes together in the bit around the elevator pitch. So let me go to the next slide. So this is a handout we have shared with you before. And I've also put it on the slide, so you can use it from here as well, because I think we do have time to go over this with the exercise, because that was a little bit depending on where we would be. So imagine you are applying for a job and you run into the recruiter in the lobby of the office. So we're just imagining here that we're actually in the office and not in a virtual space as we are right now. So you have about 5 floors to get at the floor where your interview is going to take place. And that takes you around 2 minutes. And it is very important to make an impression apart from the interview. So it's almost an informal impression. And we just said that it only takes 7 seconds for somebody to form an impression. And actually, I did talk before to recruiters that really said when they would meet somebody in the elevator, they would instantly know if this person was a yay or a nay. And when I say a yay, I actually refer to the fact that they could have a chance in getting the job. So here you go, when you see how important that could be. So when you think about this informal way, we have this handout here. And this handout, I would like to ask you to just take a couple of minutes, go over these questions for yourself to determine, one, what is my goal? So when you look at the job, it's probably a goal could be to get the job, but it could also be applicable to getting an internship. So then you might have a slightly different approach here. Write down 1 to 3 points you can offer this person or the company. So what do you bring to the table here? The third question is about defining your unique selling point. So as I said, think about when you, for example, apply for a job, you're not the only one there. So you might have people that have similar background and similar education. So what is it what you bring to the table that could potentially be irresistible for them to offer you a job? Create your engagement question. And what I mean about that, it is, so the first 3 points are about you, what you have on offer, but it is a two-way conversation. So what does the other person need, or what does the other company need, and how can you get that information out of them? And that's what you put all together in an elevator speech, or pitch, I should say. And when I say 2 minutes, we have 7 seconds to make a first impression. 2 minutes is actually a quite long time, but it is about how you do it in a very short period of time. So how do you become memorable, and how do you take the opportunity to have an informal network opportunity with this person to get the job? Say that you have about 4 minutes. 4 minutes should do it to go over these questions for yourself. And if you have any questions about the questions, then just post them in the chat box and we will answer them for you. But I just want to give you all an opportunity to think about them. Okay. A couple of seconds left, so wrap it up. So I just saw that we hit the 4 minutes. So when I ask a question, who wants to share anything they've written down on the 3 points you have on offer? You can do it in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself. So what is it you have to offer? What is special about you? And don't be afraid to brag a little, because sometimes bragging done the right way can really help you. So who would like to share something? If I think about what I have on offer, for example, Rosanna, I'm not sure what you think about that. But if I would go to a new job, for example, I would say that I have an offer that I've worked in an international firm. So I'm used to work cross-cultural, and that I am very committed because I'm used to working in different time zones. So therefore, that means that I have to be flexible. Another thing I have on offer is that I'm very detail-minded. So working with schedules is one of my top points. So I see Georgiana, hard work and commitment, wide range of experience. Good. I see that my chat box is now updating, so that's an interesting one. Apologies if I missed that one out. And I see Alexis also came with, I've experienced the way of life in 3 different countries. Wow, Alexis, that's a lot, which gave me insight on different cultures and viewpoints. I think that is a very, very good thing you have on offer, and that might even well be your unique selling point there as well. So when you would all put this together, you come to a conclusion in your elevator pitch. So I would just recommend that everybody just has another opportunity to look at it after the session. And again, if you would have any questions left, then just post them either here at the end of the session, or you can also email them to Rosie. And Rosie, I'm sure, can forward it to us, and we're happy to answer them by then.
Of course, that's absolutely fine.
Cool. Okay. Well, that actually brings us to almost the end of this session. But before we get to the end, we just want to highlight a couple of things we have talked to you about. So, Farzana, will you kick off with this?
Right. So just a few extra tips, which are sort of aligned to what we've talked about. Bottle your values. What we mean by that is think through what you stand for and channelize them to build your brand. Your values are at the core of who you are, and just be as authentic as you can be when you're looking to build your brand.
Okay, so what is your unique selling point? So play to your strengths, brag a little bit. Can't do any harm if you do it the right way. But also make yourself memorable. What defines you? What makes you different from everybody else? And what is it what you've got on offer?
And lastly, but equally importantly, have a vision, have a goal. Just like, where does a letter go without an address? It goes nowhere. Similarly, if you want to go somewhere, just define your vision, have a vision, and start working towards it. And building your personal brand would help you to meet your vision or achieve your vision. And I think with that, we've sort of come to the end of today's session on personal brand. Thank you, everybody, for being a fun, interactive audience. Mirtha and I'm going to stick around. So if you have any questions, we're happy to answer, because I know we're at time, almost at time by a minute. I think we have a minute, but we're around. So feel free to stick around and ask questions, or if you want to engage with us, happy to do that. Thank you, everybody.